And Beatrice, I think, is going to do the welcome.
Yes, welcome everyone. Early risers, day one. We're all here with our smiling faces. Welcome, welcome. We have, Not Church has been around for about 10 years, and actually Anna Zimmerman is one of the founders with Nadine DeJong and a few other people. And we welcome everyone, regardless of your race, your ethnicity, your beliefs. We are all one here, and we're a wonderful supportive group. And our goal is to bring inspirational and spiritual nurturance and fuel and food, and feed ourselves spiritually and intellectually and all the other ways that are important to us as humans. So welcome everyone. Today we have Renee that will do a wonderful meditation, and then we have Ann Botticelli, who will be our guest speaker, and all of your lovely faces here. So with that, we can start the meditation.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Renee, can you unmute yourself?
There we go. Thank you. Okay, so if everybody wants to put your feet on the ground and just kind of take a couple of deep breaths and just be aware of your breath for a moment. You can have your hands open, receiving in your lap, or you can have your hands on your heart, whatever you prefer. And just feeling the energy of the earth. Even though your feet are on a floor, underneath that floor is the earth, and you can contact that earth. So just pull that energy from the earth, this beautiful earth getting ready for spring. Bring that energy up into your feet and up your legs. This beautiful, beautiful earth energy that we like to stay in touch with as kind of a inner timing for us. And we bring this nourishing earth up our legs and up to the point at the base of our spine. That is our vitality. Just a sense of a red color at the base of our spine. And then move that earth energy up into our lower stomach and feeling a sense of an orange, beautiful energy at our stomach. And then bringing that earth energy up to the solar plexus, or just above our belly button. And this beautiful yellow energy going all the way through us, all the way through from all the stomach in front of us and the stomach behind us. And then we pull the energy up into our heart, this beautiful earth energy opening in this green, beautiful sense of our hearts, front and back. Just filling up with the color green, this color of growth, this color of healing. Then bring the earth energy up to our throat and feeling this blue on both sides of our neck. And this beautiful, beautiful blue energy opening our throat, opening what it is that we want to speak. Then bringing the energy up to our forehead and feeling this deep, deep purple indigo color. This rich, vital color coming from the earth. And then we open the top of our head. And we open and bring the earth energy up to the top of our head. And then we bring any inspiration through the top of our head, moving down moving down through all of the colors that we woke up within us, bringing that energy and letting it move through us. And as it moves through us, we can release anything that's not serving us, and releasing that energy out the bottom of our feet. And taking this brief moment of asking, what is the invitation for me today? How can I open my ears and hear what I am being invited into here today to discover, to find out more about myself? And as you feel your feet on the ground again in the room that you're in, slowly come back to the room you're at and welcome to an openness of a new day. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. That was wonderful. I can see some colors today. It's very nice. So we have the pleasure of having Diane Botticelli with us. And Diane, her background is in integrative medicine as a physician's assistant. She views healing through a lens of what naturally encourages wellness and stress resilience. Her experience and training embraces spiritual psychology and practical theology, together with the discovery that health conditions hold within them great opportunities for personal expansion and self-fulfillment. And she has focused more and more on integrative health coaching. I was, sorry, my mind went to, how sometimes there are gifts and illnesses, with cancer and other things that seem so, that are so terrible, but sometimes there's gifts that come from that. So using her resources, she has, and so she's coaching on transformative nutrition, and has recently written a book called Nourishing Transformations, with recipes and stories for loving and living well. And she'll be sharing with us 7 secret sauces for nourishing your health and vitality. I know we all welcome that. And she'll also share an upcoming training that sounds wonderful, that she'll be doing for us, or doing it, and we're invited to participate as well. So I'll let Diane share more about herself and her book. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a lovely meditation, Renee. Thank you for that. Helped to relax me. No matter how many presentations I do over the years, there's always a certain energy that comes in that feels like nervousness, but really could be excitement if I think about it. The focus on nutrition probably got seeded many years ago, but it's nice to kind of give people a little bit of a background. Yes, I studied traditional Western medicine in Boston as a physician assistant, but the book that I wrote just goes back to my childhood. So I just took recipes and made them more nutritious and talked about my experience around the table, meal times. And it was like a 7-year period that it simmered. I started, some of you know about the University of Santa Monica. You may or may not know, but it's a spiritual psychology program that's 2 years. And then there's a 3rd year called the Consciousness, Health, and Healing. And during that 3rd year, I decided to put my ideas on paper around, I thought it was just nutrition, but I coined the phrase, sort of thinking I'm a wordsmith, nourishing transformations, which to me means, how do we take in nourishment and it's physical, how we mental, emotional, and spiritual. So the idea here is that we are multidimensional beings, and each cell in our body is a divine instrument. It's a divine consciousness. So when we take in nourishment on whatever level, if we had the awareness that we were feeding or nurturing that cell, and there's billions of them in our bodies, then the health and vitality would come naturally. And it has for a lot of people through the ages. But there are different conditions currently in our world that seems to work counter to our natural knowing about how to stay healthy and balanced. And I think that in the United States, we have some bigger issues than people who are in Mexico. Right now, I think in some ways, Mexico lends itself to more health. And the sunshine is number one. But also some of the things that I'm going to talk about, how some of the physical ways that we take in nutrition is affected by our culture and the practices that we have in place to actually grow our food. And so I'm sort of all over the place. I have a few disclaimers. One is that the secret sauces, which are really nutritional principles, are not precise or comprehensive. They are just ones that have come through me that I sort of decided are ones that seem very important to me. So I always tell you, take it with a grain and bring your own cultural culinary wisdom present, because it may be different for you. So that's one disclaimer. Another one is that I love to tell stories, but there's no rhyme or reason for the stories. The stories just touched me. And there are 13 in my book. There are 13 recipe stories, and the 13th one is not any food. It's about a near-death experience of my sister-in-law, and it's a recipe for love and miracles. So the book is kind of a mixture of things. The secret sauces are part of what I shared, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen and see if I can prompt the most important ideas. Let's see. So that's just the cover of the book. I love it because those are my hands and my granddaughter's hands. And the idea was to share knowledge through generations. So it was a picture that meant to me that we can share our knowledge, and then just in the same vein, we would remember what our grandparents and parents gave us. That was wisdom about health. So getting more specific, I'm just going to review. I already mentioned that I believe we're all multidimensional beings. So nourishing comes from all levels, and but it's really important to start with the physical. So all illness begins in the gut was something that, and I'll show you. I'm going to come back to this, but this comes from Hippocrates. So I'm going to read the quote: "The natural healing force within each of us is the greatest force in getting well. Our food should be our medicine, and our medicine should be our food." So he was thousands of years ago, sort of the father of healing medicine. Hippocrates, one of those great minds and souls in history, but his focus is amazingly important because as I go back to this slide, 75% of our immunity lines our gut. Most people think it's in the blood, but it's not. And your gut is actually the outside of your body. So in embryological terms, as we developed in our mother's womb, we involuted and created the gut. And then actually, if you see the outside of my hand, that's the outside of the body, remains the outside. So it's like The metaphor I use is like a castle, that the wall of the castle is like our gut because it protects us. At least when it's in integrity, it does. So it is like our first line defense, or I would say more surveillance. It decides what to take in and what to keep out. When its integrity is breached, then we take in things that we shouldn't take in, and it may cause illness or dis-ease in the body. So taking care of our guts from our mouths all the way through is really one way to focus. And the reason it's so important, before the pandemic, we were doing some very great research around how the brain and the gut connect. And we've always talked and heard about gut reflexes, right? Or gut instincts. Well, there's a reason for that, because the surveillance system is actually these cells in our gut that have evolved for thousands of years that actually do censor what's in the lumen of the stomach, the intestine, and they feed that information back through neurons that actually should be, you think it's only in the brain. Well, there's neurons in your gut, and they feed that information to the vagus nerve that goes all the way to the brain. Now, interestingly enough, you would ask yourself how many messages come from the gut to the brain and how many messages from the brain to the gut. Well, I'm going to give you a minute to just guess. And if I were sophisticated, I'd say put it in the chat, but we don't have to do that. And just look at that number, and I'm going to tell you what the percentages are. And I think it's shocking. 90% of the messages go from the gut up to the brain. 10% come from the brain down to the gut. So you think about who is really boss. Your gut is a way of communicating with the world, and it goes up to the brain interprets it, and of course we have selective perception there in the brain. That's a whole other talk. But the idea is that the gut is very important for our immunity and for our understanding of the world. So what we take in, what we choose to put as nourishment, nurturing to our gut is so very important, not just on the physical level. So when you have thoughts, you're going to affect your gut. When you have emotions, you're going to affect your gut. And the idea is that we are beginning as human beings to start to understand how, I don't know if the word is, it's multidimensional, but it's more than that, how connected we are to our world, that there really is no separation. We talk about that in spiritual terms, but we don't necessarily think about it in physical terms. And I'm trying to make that connection for you. If the cell is a divine unit of spiritual consciousness, every single cell, and we are nurturing it through many different levels. This is a very holistic way of looking at what we do to nurture ourselves and nourish ourselves. And then there's the whole idea of how do you transform it into the highest experience? Well, our spirit, of course, can override any of those interactions. So if there's a breach of integrity, which some integrative physicians would call leaky gut, and that's what it is. It's that the cells, instead of being tightly woven, they have little spaces. So how do you bring that together to keep that wall of the castle clear and strong? And even if you do the wrong things, or you eat the wrong things, or you drink the wrong things, or you breathe the wrong things, or it's not right or wrong, but the idea is if they aren't fully, let's say this, our world has toxins, over 85,000, I've heard up to 100,000 toxins in the environment, air, water, and food. But how do we keep our bodies in good health and integrity? because the body is a miracle. We have so many ways that we detoxify and rebalance ourselves. So we couldn't micromanage in our minds how that happens. It's just a miracle when you think about it, because we're still alive and we keep living, even though there are all those things outside that would conspire to make us ill. When we get ill, there still are ways, even with, you would think, terminal illness, because I have seen people heal from all kinds of things that other people's might not have. I worked for Atkins in New York, and many people think of him as the bacon and eggs guy, but he is not. He was much more integrative. He just didn't come to the public about it. He had people from all over the world come and teach him integrative techniques using magnets and live cell analysis and lots of supplements. He was very innovative. He did no real research except he served patients. So I saw literal miracles of healing, but they weren't miracles. There was actually science behind them. So getting back, and then at Duke, also at the Integrative Medicine Center there, I also saw miracles because people mostly focused and committed to their health. And then they did healthful things, and they worked on their emotions, their heart, their mind, their spirit to come all in alignment. And they would change their bodies and change their attitudes. So what is the good news about all the toxins is that water, drinking a lot of water can actually detoxify you. Lots of foods can detoxify. And I'll get more into that. But the idea is that your spirit can override that with your clear intention. So bringing in the light, like Renee had us do, is a very powerful thing to do. So we have so many resources. So Awakening Your Inner Physician, that's a book I'm working on with my husband right now, is for those of you that know about spiritual psychology, we call it our inner counselor. But the inner physician has been referenced through the ages, actually, back from Hippocrates era. It's that inner wisdom that you can evoke and bring present and consult. So that's nourishing transformation, and that's Hippocrates. So let's talk about some of the secret sauces. So let me just check my time. All right, so secret sauce number one is food quality and phytonutrients. So food quality is really just about fresh as you can get it. And if you can go to a farmer and get your food, that's even better. If you know how the farmer is raising its livestock and vegetables and fruits. In the United States, we have a problem with our soil. Our topsoil is now contaminated. They say the world's topsoil, about 70% of it's contaminated, but in Mexico, I don't know. I think maybe it's cleaner. We use a lot of GMO seeds. So what we see in the grocery stores here are beautiful vegetables and fruits, but if we bite into them, they don't really taste very well. They have a taste, but it's not as enticing or deep as you get from organic and even regenerative. So regenerative farming is going back 100 years or hundreds of years, where you don't disrupt the soil. You allow the microbiome to regenerate itself, and you use more of organic. It's letting fields regenerate, planting things that nitrogen fix, plants that do that. It's what many of our ancestors did naturally, but now we have to call it something special, regenerative. If you can find a regenerative farmer, they are usually very versed in how to bring forward nutrient-dense fruits, vegetables, and healthy animals. So There are gradations of fresh, but I love to use fresh ingredients because it has the most nutrients. And like a macrobiotic cook, I like to use all of the vegetable as much as I can. I try not to even scrape off the skins. There's so many vitamins in it, but it depends on your palate and your tolerance. So phytonutrients, I love the alliteration of phytonutrients. It's like these are the little tiny molecules that fight for your health. And how do you maximize them? You take in different colors. And this might be so familiar to you. Every color, every day, something we might have heard. But there are these little phytonutrients like lutein for your eyes, and lots of vitamin A in certain vegetables. Eggs are almost like a perfect food if you can get them organic, and your body can handle it. So these are some examples of the phytonutrients. Resveratrol is an interesting molecule. It's one that you find in red wine, but you'd have to drink 100 glasses to get the amount that would really make a difference. So it's probably best to take as a supplement. It's a weight balancing one, and it has so many other benefits, but it oxidizes very easily. So you have to get it in the right supplement, in a nitrogen bubble capsule, or it's put into sort of an oil base so that it's preserved. But those are some of the foods that have resveratrol in them: peanuts and grapes and cranberries. And then all the berries have amazing anthocyanins and others of those phytonutrients. Berries are probably a really wonderful food for your immunity, for your brain health. And then there's always the beta carotene that you get from orange vegetables, and some deep green leafy greens. Those are my favorite because they're so rich in vitamins. But I just want to say something. Everybody loves to eat the deep greens, collard greens, and kale. But if you have to really chew them well, put a lot of salt and lemon on them to break down the cellulose walls, or you don't get the vitamins. The best way is just to steam it lightly. So those are some ideas about getting phytonutrients, and that's secret sauce number 1. So here's the other 6 of the 7 secret sauces. Food preparation, and I'm just going to say a few things about each of the secret sauces. I go in more in depth with the course in April, but just food preparation. Everyone thinks that if you have a food and you cook it, it's going to give you the same nutrients, and it's not true. From what I understand, if you eat something raw and you chew it well, and your body will take in a high degree of nutrients. If you have like leafy greens, you need to steam it because the walls are too thick. If you deep fry something, it's not going to have the same effect on your body as if you were to parboil or steam or poach, like even an egg. Poaching versus scrambling makes a difference in how your body takes in the oxidized cholesterol if you mix it up and then fry it. But if you boil that egg, and it's a healthy egg, and you eat it soft boiled, you have a higher nutrient value and an easier way that your body can utilize the nutrition. So I always suggest that if you're going to fry it, it always tastes good, but it adds calories. It depends on the oil that you use. And if you go past the smoke point, for example, you're going to create trans fats. And trans fats, everyone says they will avoid margarine because we all know that there's trans fats in that, but they may not know that you can create trans fats if you don't cook properly. So you can also create trans fats if you use the kind of oils that have been processed, such as cottonseed or soy oil. So those, I try to tell people avoid those. The mixed vegetable oils, throw them out. That might shock a few people, but they've been processed where there's no nutrient value. And also the processing, the chemicals that are processing are still in the oil. And and they are predominantly omega-6, so they can be pro-inflammatory. And then when you fry it, fry anything and you create the trans fats, that's not good for your heart health or your vessels. So I'd say think like a French person. They don't overcook their food, and then they bring these raw sauces to your table, or they put it right over the prepared meal. So they're using raw olive oil and spices, and they put it over, and it's supposedly gourmet. It's also very good for you. So if the more you can avoid cooking in oil, if you do saute them and you use high smoke point oils like coconut, which is good till 350. Avocado oil is up to almost, I know it's up to 400. It might be higher than that. So those are good oils to cook with and keep it at lower temperatures. If you see smoke, you're probably creating what we call advanced glycolating end products. And that spells age, AGES. And it's easy to remember because it ages you. Advanced glycolating end products is from frying things beyond their smoke point or using oils that have been chemically processed. So I stick to coconut oil and olive oil. Coconut oil is a solid at room temperature, at least where I live. Probably in Mexico, it's an oil because it turns to liquid in warmer temperatures. And I would go with organic on both of those. And with olive oil, check it out carefully because there's been some shenanigans in the olive oil industry. Okay, so moving on to food, moods, and attitudes. This one I love because this is where I remember my grandmother, when she cooked, she would always listen to opera or she'd be humming. And so people who sing while they cook or are happy, that kind of energy goes into the food. And it's also includes sitting down and just blessing your food for a few seconds. It's the attitude of being grateful for what you have, and then bless the farmers and the rain and the land as well. And bless the people you're eating with. So there's this idea that when you have an attitude of gratefulness, your food is absorbed better. Your nutrients are utilized more efficiently. And then moving on to the next one, I want to give you some time to ask questions. Eat what you need. The Tibetans say eat to 80% full. So that leaves your, that implies that you eat slowly. You've heard of slow food? They have it in Italy. It's called, instead of fast food. Because you sit and you talk to people and you might have a little bit of wine and you talk to people and then maybe your food comes and it comes in slowly. It takes hours. When I grew up, I have these stories in the book. We would sit down for a meal. Maybe you can relate to this. And it would take hours because there were lots and lots of stories, which is my 7th secret sauce, which is if you're engaging in loving community, you're going to be healthier because you're laughing and enjoying. And I had this image that maybe Tranquilo was a community where you went to a common kitchen, although I hear you go to a certain cafe and you engage in community. it's a kind of a lost art in the United States, even among families. And it's not given a lot of press, but it's that breaking down of the mealtime where my parents would say, how was your day? What's going on? It was a check-in time. And it was a time actually encouraged in my family to tell a story that could evoke a tear or a laugh. And you were given full reign to be exaggerative. You could just entertain. So this one, the two I have left at the last are the Metabesity or Meta Beast in Me and Finding Satiety, because this is my own flavor of nourishing transformations. Meta Beast in Me is really about cravings. And in the United States, you'll see coffee shops that ebb and flow with this Meta Beast in Me, which is blood sugar fluctuations. When people are stressed and they want to use coffee, you'll see the lines really long, and then a few hours later, then it dies down. People have taken in their sugar and caffeine, and their sugars are high, but they're going to drop in an hour or two, and then the whole cycle will start over again. I had this drilled into me with Atkins because he really felt like cardiovascular disease was more about blood sugar fluctuations and insulin fluctuations than it was about, eating the wrong fats. I believe it's a combination, but it's been downplayed. And this Meta Beast in Me, a lot of us can relate to it if they're eating refined carbohydrates, cookies, pastries, those kinds of things with the tea or coffee. About an hour later, just check, are you hungry again? Because often an hour or two later, you will be. So I talk a lot about how do you tame that beast? We call it metabesity in the circles in integrated medicine, or diabesity. We used to call it syndrome X because we didn't really want to define it. It was better as a mystery. Now we know what it is. And having a little protein with your meals can really help that as a one thing that you can do. And there's lots of other techniques as well. So finding satiety is, now this goes into the realm of mental, emotional, and that is how do we actually know when we're full? So if you do chew well and you slow your eating down so that 20 minutes has gone by from the time that you start your meal, then your gut can start to register that it's full. But a lot of people who are in working mode don't take that much time to eat, and then they find they're eating seconds before the 20 minutes is up, and thirds, and their satiety then is a moving target because their stomach expands, and then that's how one of the ways people gain weight that they don't want. So finding satiety is an actual process of awareness, and I use my neurolinguistic training where you can be very specific and procedural about it, or you can just simply wait the 20 minutes and then spend a few seconds noticing how you're feeling. So I take time for body awareness, and that will be you'll get better and better at finding out what is that 80% feeling of fullness where you can stop. So that's an actual process that I teach. So that's the Cliff version. So I wanted to leave 10 minutes. Let me just see. There is a joke. Here's a nice pictorial of your gut brain. It's really busy. You may be sitting there feeling like you aren't doing very much, but at a cellular and gut level, you're very, very busy. And good health is clear intention. As I mentioned, you can always override anything with your spiritual intention and your using your mind and emotions and sounds that are healing. And you can look up Sauvaggio. I don't know how to spell it for you, but it's Italian, so you pretty much Sauvaggio. It's you can spell it, and probably if you Google it or search engine it, you will come up with YouTube videos that will give you healing frequencies. Those are kind of cool. And this one is, this is about what's on your plate and how they combine, how they talk to each other. And hopefully, as you see a lot of protein and carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, which would be things like mushrooms, things like, well, that has protein too, things like gourds. And Sauvaggio is Savaggio. My husband gave me. And then this is just a cute little pictorial for balance.
It's cute.
And then, of course, I always like to end with humor. My therapy is quite simple. I wag my tail and lick your face until you feel good about yourself. So I really want to stop the share and open this for any questions. Oh, there's something in the chat. Let's see. It's called So. She says, in Mexico, enjoying a long meal with loving friends and family is called Sober Mesa. I love that. And then Carmen mentioned, this is correct. Everyone is happy and satisfied, in the mood to share stories and talk. Sober Mesa, the best part of the meal. Yes, I guess we're in, I'm speaking to the choir here. Do you have, Beatrice asked me to leave some time for questions. So if anyone has any, I'm open.
Just remember to unmute yourself.
I mentioned before we started that I find it really difficult to find integrative medicine practitioners. We're near San Diego, so we can go there. But you're right, the medical treatment in Mexico is wonderful and affordable. But since we have Medicare, we join a group, hospital practice in San Diego, but it's really hard to find anybody who's practicing in this way.
And Anna, you're right. It's partly during the era of the COVID, there was a law passed, AB 2098 in California, that is a gag rule for physicians. So if they were to say something that is not part of mainstream, and certainly integrative medicine is not in alignment with mainstream, although it can be complementary. And a lot of integrative physicians will, like my husband, he wants to not doctor bash. He has an understanding of what they go through, but he may disagree with their treatments. So the Institute of Functional Medicine is one place to look to get a referral. And just to know that doctors are under that gag rule, they can lose their license if they say something wrong or say, and it's a very vague law, went into effect in September of last year or October. And before that, there's the pressure of, you better stay in alignment. It's probably the most restrictive environment for integrative medicine I've ever seen in my career.
Yeah,
So,
I've been looking, and I do respect medicine. I respect the different aspects, and I would like to find a balanced way of, care. So I just thought maybe you knew someone, or maybe you knew a clinic or something, since you guys.
well, I know of a doctor, Dr. Stephen Chi, who is actually a graduate of USM.
Oh yes, well, cool. And he's in Los Angeles, isn't he?
He is. And he does acupuncture and herbs, and he understands spiritual psychology. So he's one person I can tell you.
He's great. I did CHH a couple of years ago, and he was part of, he was on the faculty. It was wonderful. Thanks. I just would love to find somebody in San Diego, somebody closer to us. But
Well, you know, we are, my husband does telemedicine, and he is licensed in California. So he can do, but his focus would be not primary care. It would be consultative. So
it's good.
he could give a second opinion is what I'm saying.
Great.
So you could, Beatrice will have my email, or you can email him at Philip with, he's one hell of a guy. He's also a graduate of USM, and he did Steve Chi's job before Steve took it over in CHH program for about 8 years. So it's Philip, 1L at Conscious Health Consultants. I guess I'm being shameless that I'm referring my husband.
No, it's great. I didn't realize he did consultation. I am familiar with him, and I didn't realize he did that. That's great.
Yeah, we did. We left the regular medicine because of our divergent views in the last few years. After I worked on a COVID management team with Duke, apparently I was too liberal or something. And they booted me out. But my patients who supposedly had positive tests did well on integrative medicine. They told me I couldn't treat them with any pharmaceuticals. So I said, oh, good. I'll treat them with nutrients and nutrition. And they all nobody died. Nobody went on a ventilator. They all did well. So it's our philosophy that we work where people are and bring them to a better place on health spectrum.
We know so much, and yet people still don't make the connection. I was talking to a family member who has Parkinson's, and mentioning, you know, eating healthier, trying to stay away from chemicals and preservatives and things like that. And mentioned to her, you know, your body is compromised right now. And she had this look on her face, which I thought was fascinating. You know, like,
it is. There's
yeah,
a big range of what people know and what they're willing to open to. So we have to tread very gently and respectfully, because I believe that almost anything is healable. Of course, it's for, you know, for their highest good. Because I used to work with AIDS patients, and sometimes the best thing was for them to die, but to die well, and to fulfill their bucket list was a healing. So, you know, both of us, my husband and I, have had to grapple with, when is it a person's time to transition to a higher place and to celebrate that. And on the journey, if we're with them for the last leg of the journey, how can we make it as most expansive and loving? And so both of us have worked in that field in the 80s. And then to see another epidemic happen again was really impactful for us, because it seems like some of the natural healing methods were just bypassed. They were, because I saw people get better, and I dealt with people who were children to graduate, I should say graduate, because I dealt with people who were teaching in the graduate programs at Duke. They were academicians, they were ER physicians, didn't matter. And their children and their grandparents, they all got better, and they just used natural methods. So the idea that natural medicine is being, I would say it's taking a beating these days. It's like it no longer has, at least in this country. Now tell me, is that different in Mexico?
It's so very different here. when we first moved here full time, which was 14 years ago, we went to a local doctor. We were trying to decide between maintaining healthcare in the US and getting healthcare in Mexico. And we went to a doctor who, instead of handing us a form, she took a piece of paper and a pen, and she sat and talked to us and made notes. She asked us the questions, and we had a discussion, and it was like an hour, set aside just for history, just to take in information. And I went to a new doctor. I keep trying people in San Diego. I went to an osteopath who I thought, at Kaiser, and I thought maybe, and a few months ago, and she sat at a keyboard in front of a monitor, and she looked at the monitor the entire time. She hardly ever even looked at me.
Right.
So those are the kinds of differences. And of course, the costs in Mexico. I mean,
well, I will tell you that my husband's writing a book called Coach Your Doctor, and he brings up a lot of those points.
Yeah.
And then I'm writing a book, a companion book, because I realize I like writing. Your inner doctor is coaching you. So a lot of these issues that are hidden in plain sight, like the electronic, the EHR, we call it, electronic health record. When I was at Duke, I had to do that where I would type as fast as I could, and then I would turn to the patient and work with them. And then, you're time pressured also. So there's a lot of considerations of what changes that are happening that are affecting the doctor-patient relationship. That's why we actually went into telemedicine, because we can spend the full hour and we can give you a report, and we work together, and we don't charge individually. We charge a one fee for both of us. It's now become a fulfillment of our spiritual contract for this lifetime. It's like we don't even really have to work. We're retired age, but all the training, all of the effort, it just seems like it's too soon to stop. I know this is recorded, and I have said some sensitive things, so I'm going to have to forgive myself. Are there any? I don't know if we're running out of time, or we've run out of time.
We're at the end, and we didn't have a chance to really hear about the class you're going to be offering, so we can post the information and share it with everyone.
Well, it's very quick, Beatrice. I'm just going to start on April 6th and march right through to April 27th on a Thursday evening. It'll be 7:00 Pacific time. And that's because I do a prayer call. We have a prayer meeting every night at an hour before that, and I don't want to disturb it. And so so 7 to 8:30 your time. And I used to have fancy registration things. I canceled all that. You could just email me, and then I can send you the information if you want to come in. There is a fee. It will include my book. It will include also a playbook and then the classes. But if that fee is too much, I'm very good with sliding it.
What is your email?
It's Diane@conscioushealthconsultants.com. Beatrice has my personal email, but that's my work email. And you spell everything out. Diane, DIANE, at conscious, the word health, consultants. So there's an S on there, .com. And that's our website. If you want to go on there, there's videos and blogs and things. There's a blog on there that I put that is about gut health on our website, conscioushealthconsultants.com. But you just shoot me an email, and then I'll put you on the list, and it'll be online, of course, in an hour and a half. Was that quick enough?
Yes. Thank you. You've given us so much information. We could have gone on for hours with the wonderful information you gave us. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we'll have to take a look at the book. I can't wait to take a look at it. Yeah.
Yes.
And I
Well,
just,
it's a PDF form, so I haven't gone. I'm actually in the process of actually asking a publisher to publish it. So I'm just going to give it away as part of the course as a PDF form.
Joy has a question.
Okay. Oh,
It's not a question. I just want to let you know that I took the class with Diane, and there's so much information. It's absolutely amazing. What she gave today is just a teeny part of it. And I'm still trying to grasp it all and integrate it all. So it's a very fun class, just a little bit from someone who's taken it. Well worth it.
I didn't pay her to say that, by the way.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am going to stop the recording.